Remember, once you put your face out there, you can't take it down. So that's a big thing. That's a big thing to think about.
Did I know? But it's already too late because my profile picture is literally my face.
Oh yeah,
So it's already
it
too
doesn't
late.
matter.
It is what it is. Like, it was one of the things where I pretty much knew it, but like I was like, you know what, YouTube seems like it could be fun. It's very different from what I was expecting, but it is. It has its bugs. It has some cool things.
Okay.
I think for now.
Okay, I'm live. Do you just want to talk about God of War and Batman, and then we can do it again on your channel?
Don't worry about it. I think because I don't really understand how life works, so I think maybe I'm not sure because this is like the first time I've even done something like this. Like, so it's very different to me, experience. But I think what we could do is we'll talk about God of War, Batman. We'll see where the conversation goes, and then if you feel like there's still more that you want to talk about, then we can do it on my channel. I think.
Okay.
I never really had the intention of even doing this on my channel. It was more like this would be something interesting to like just gauge.
Okay. Well, what's your experience with God of War and Batman? Let's start there.
So with God of War, I've pretty much completed every God of War. I think the only ones I haven't completed were the PSP games, but I've played all the PSP games. I've never like finished them, unfortunately. But I already know how all of them end because, like, it's how the internet works. Like, you at this point, like, you've watched a playthrough, you've seen a few things here and there, but I've played every God of War game. I just haven't finished the PSP game, but I've played all of them. And with Arkham, or like the Arkham series, I played all of the Arkham, but the Arkham series is a bit different because for me, it's more like I played Arkham whenever I went to a friend's house. So when I was growing up, I'd always go to my friend's place, and that's how we talk. He'd make me play the games, and that's how I got accustomed to the Arkham games. They were a lot of fun, It was really enjoyable. How about you?
I started it was a while ago. I must have started playing the God of War games first on the PSP. The on the PS Vita, you could got this bundle pack. It was God of War, Ghost of Sparta, and Chains of Olympus. I believe it was. They came in a bundle pack on the Vita, if you remember the Vita. But
it was an interesting time. The Vita, I did like the Vita, but like it was one of those things where like I was alone on that. Everyone else was like, it's the one and done.
I was in wrestling for a little while, and I knew a guy who had a Vita, and we used to play games together. But and then after that, I got
Wait, what?
What?
You watch wrestling?
No.
You watch wrestling?
No, in high school, I was on the wrestling team.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
And so that eventually brought me into playing the original 3 games, 1, 2, and 3. I really liked those, and along that time, I was playing the Arkham games. I played Arkham Asylum, then I played Arkham City, and I went back to play Arkham Origins, and then I played Arkham Knight, and I loved all of my problems with them. We can go over those, but what and then I played God of War 4 and God of War Ragnarok. But
yeah.
I watched your video that you had on God of War. Explain your thought process for that video for anyone that hasn't seen it. There's actually somebody on live right now. Hi, how are you? Anyway, explain your thought process behind that video for anyone that didn't watch it.
So for me, when I remember when God of War Ragnarok was happening. So I grew up, like as I said, I grew up on God of War. I was playing God of War as a kid, which I got away with it because my mom didn't really know about ratings and stuff like that. She didn't truly understand it. So like I played God of War back when I was way too young to be playing it, but I played it anyways. And I really enjoyed the franchise, the entire run through. Like God of War 1, 2. 2 was my personal favorite, and then I got to 3. 3 was the big thing. Everyone played 3. They loved it. And I feel like 3 really was the main game that everyone played. Because like it was the one, it was one of those things where like, it came out in 2010, and during that time on the PS3, it was like, oh, the new gen game, you know what I mean? So a lot more people that didn't even know the rest of the franchise just came on to God of War 3. And one thing I realized when God of War 4, or 2018, whichever, started coming around was that it it's advertising for some reason. Whenever people would talk about it, they'd always, for some reason, talk about Kratos not being deep, and this game making him deep. And that confused me because I was like, what are you talking about? Like, he's always been deep. It was a different type of deep because now we're in a different stage of Kratos' life in God of War 2018. So like, you're not wrong that you've made him deep, but it's a different stage. He was always deep in the original God of Wars. And I kept hearing this narrative over and over and over, and then Ragnarok happened as well. And then it kept being perpetuating it. Like, it wasn't, I'd say around Ragnarok, it did calm down a bit, but I still kept hearing it, and I was like, dude, this is like, I don't know if this is revisionist history or people just not remembering. And what I generally tend to find whenever I looked into the discussion was most people only played God of War 3. Most people only remembered God of War 3, and that was the kind of like the wrap up of Kratos' arc. So for me, I was like, when they say, oh, he's the big rage monster, yeah, that's only because the majority of them played God of War 3. That was the point of God of War 3. It's the end of his arc. That gets us like, oh, we're done here. So now I'm like, yeah, this is just revisionist history. You guys don't, either you didn't play the games or you didn't understand the arc. One of the two. And like, I was like, nah, I feel like I have something here, and I just put my 2 cents on that one.
Yeah, I've gotten that sentiment too, or they forget that that what they never played the other games, or they forget that Kratos had any character to begin with. Like they forget that even however cringy it was, the stuff with Calliope, um it changed Kratos' character, and it sent him on a different path. And people kind of misunderstand. Oh, they changed his character, without us seeing it when they really didn't. Kratos went on the path, to try and be a better person in God of War 3, and then you add time, and that's him in 2018. People tend to forget the stuff with Calliope, but
yeah, like even like the stuff with Pandora, which was like
Pandora. Sorry, I'm mixing the name up.
Oh, yeah, Calliope's his daughter, so like
I'm mixing the names up.
You, but yeah, dude, this was like I kind of get it. Like it's like the same argument when people were making for I don't know if you played God of Ragnarok or not.
I have.
It by chance?
I have.
Alright, cool. So in God of War Ragnarok, there was a scene where Atreus went on this journey with Angrboda, right? And I remember people being like, "Oh, this is very slow. This is very weirdly paced." And what I found was a lot of people misinterpreted what that whole sequence was about. Because when I played it, I was like, oh, this is like the calm before the storm. Atreus is like now, he's getting to meet someone his own age, getting to experience conversations, how even like early symptoms of like love and stuff like that for another person that's romantic, and so we're kind of seeing layers to his character that we never saw before. So the whole point was that this is the calm before the storm, and then we get to the next part. And a lot of people are like, oh, this is slow, this is that. And I'm like, yes, it's supposed to be slow. That's the whole point. And like the same thing happened with the Pandora. It was, once again, the game is slow, but that's the point of that section of the game. You're meant to see that Kratos is still human. And I think sometimes we tend to oversimplify, and I don't even blame anyone for doing this. Like I do it sometimes. We tend to oversimplify situations because it makes it easier for us to understand. But when you take everything as a whole and you like see the entire narrative, you kind of see where this was going. Like the whole, even like the ending of that section of the game, I believe Atreus like ended up getting the it was the giants, right? It was the soul of the giants.
Yeah,
That was like
the
his
little balls.
responsibility. And you remember like the little marble things, right?
Yeah, the little marble
And
things.
yeah, and that was the soul of the giants, but he wasn't ready for that responsibility. So like, it was this whole different aspect of creating. Like, oh man, I just think like we just tend to just like we just tend to misremember and oversimplify a lot of things often, and it's honestly because it's just easier to understand. And like sometimes it's like you just need someone else to say what you're probably thinking. And like I even find that like with other videos, like I find that a lot. Like there'll be people where I can't fully express what I was thinking at the time, and then I watch a video and I'm like, bro, you literally said what I was saying in my mind.
I
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I do think that the Angry Boulder section is a little bit long because I think it padded with find 3 item missions over and over again. Pick the seeds, find this, find that.
Yeah.
I think if they would have shortened it and made less find the item missions and kept more toward the story and less combat, I think that would have been better. I think it would have been better paced. But
Like I was having this argument with my friend, and like we've come to this conclusion is that God of War should have been 3 games, the whole Norse era. Like I do think there will be another Norse game. Personally, it just feels like there's still more. Like it did, like even after Ragnarok, the story didn't feel complete. But I still believe that this should have been 3 games. I feel they did rush it, in my opinion. The story was great. I still think it is a game. It felt a bit rushed towards the end for me, though. But I still think it's a fantastic game.
If you were to make 3 games, how would you split it up? Because just recently playing the newest one, I don't know where you would stop and make another game. Where would you what would you do if with 3 games instead of 2?
Yeah, that one's a bit harder where exactly we end. Because like I do like it is a narrative like where it's like it goes one after the other. But I feel for me, there were parts of the game that felt like we just kind of rushed it. Like the relationships between like there were a lot of characters. There were so many characters in the game. And I found that more often than not, like when someone died, you didn't really care. So like I remember when there were 2 death scenes, and the one was like a fake out. He wasn't actually dead. We found him later if you played the mini game. So like there was this random I forget what they called them, but like the dude with the big sword, and he sacrificed himself so that we could escape.
Yeah,
what was it?
Bjerger. I believe that was his name.
Dude. And like he sacrificed himself, and that was a big climax moment for his arc or his character. But on the whole, it's like, who is this dude? I didn't get to spend time with him. I don't know his story like that, and it just there was a lot of characters that they were juggling, and then even speaking on Freya's brother, who I actually liked. I really did like his character, and I did feel sad when he died. But I felt more sad for Freya than I did for his death. And I felt with like stuff like that, it could have been expounded upon if we had 3 games. But like, no, not 3. Like if we had the Ragnarok story split into two games, and even like towards the end when it was the battle, and then all of the we didn't what the elves, instead of us going to the elves and us like convincing them to join us in the war, it was like okay they're in the war, and the same thing happened with the dwarves. Well, not really the dwarves, but you get what I'm saying. Like it's stuff like that where I felt there could we could have had more, and I do think this should have been padded into a second game where the it could have been a lot more streamlined if it had two separate games. But I'm not mad because at the end of the day, I still got one of the greatest games of all time. And I do believe Ragnarok is a fantastic game, and I think God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok are a complete package. I feel like it's kind of like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like when I judge Lord of the Rings, I don't judge it individually. I judge it for three movies as a whole. Like it just like it feels weird to like, oh, I'm sure I think like everyone will have their favorites, but like I judge it all at just like at one thing because it's not a complete story if you don't watch the whole thing. And I think the same thing with God of War 2018 to me, Ragnarok. But where I would end it, that is a tough one. I'm not too sure. Like you.
No, you go ahead. I thought you were asking me a question.
I talk a lot. I talk a lot, and like I do love God of War. It's one of my favorite games. There's, I do think it's flawed. Like UI is trash. Oh my god, the UI. My friend dogged the UI, and I tried to defend it, but I couldn't defend it after a while. It got very messy. UI was terrible, and even I remember. Okay, this is getting a bit off topic a bit. But I remember when Angry Boda got released for the first time, and that felt strange to me. Like I remember like my friend, even like me and my friends were like, "Oh, she's black, interesting." But that's a different discussion, I guess. But it felt very like an interesting choice, and it was definitely different. Definitely different. Like they made it make sense within the world, and I did appreciate that because like I think when you think of Norse, you don't really think of a lot of black people being in like the Norse world. Like even though like they're like if we do look in history, there are like accounts of like there are probably accounts of black indigenous people that were like traded to they were like traded from like the indigenous country to the Norse, and they probably I'd imagine while fighting with the Vikings, but it's just one of those things where like it felt a bit off at first, and then I got used to it later. But hey, that's that whole that's the thing with like Sweet Baby right now. That's the whole
yeah.
when people are starting looking for.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. The stuff with Sweet Baby Inc. that's coming out. They did have input on God of War Ragnarok, but I feel like it wasn't a lot or anything that was
100%.
justified because the Jotunheim is more of like a desert area with more sun, so I think that makes more sense for black people to be there. So I'm totally okay with that. I think they justify why black people would be in Norse mythology, and the only other black person is a shapeshifter, and he can look like whatever he wants.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So that literally he can look like whatever. So that's fine.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where like when you see it at first, it's jarring because like you don't expect it, and then in the story it makes enough sense. Just gonna have to give me a second. Sorry, like someone's knocking at the door, but I'll be back.
Okay.
It's gonna give me 2 seconds.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just keep talking. I think it really stuff with Sweet Baby Inc. really did make me angry. I watch an archery video. It's the person with the lady with the dog at the avatar. I think that stuff really awful. Race doesn't really matter. And like, hey, if you want, and video games should always be up to the creator, you know? You know, I'm making a video game, not this company trying to force whatever agenda they want into the game. And that's not really in God of War Ragnarok. And any of it is justified through the but what were you saying?
You can like I heard a bit of what you were saying earlier, and one thing that what I tend to find with specifically Santa Monica is that, well, like the way Sweet Baby Inc. works is that Santa Monica already had good writers, so they were able to make it make sense, and the input that Sweet Baby Inc. put into the game, they were able to make that work. Like favorite characters in God of War Ragnarok is Freya. I think Freya was so good, so fantastic as a character, and you can definitely see they put a lot more focus on her as a not a secondary character, more like a third. What what do you call that?
It's
They definitely put a lot more focus on
she Freya and and there's a lot more focus on the female characters, but that's okay.
Yeah, but you see what because it's so.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So like, what do you call it? Because like the story is between a Kratos and a Atreus, but I feel like Freya is also a main protagonist. I feel like she's very much the focal point for a lot of the story. And
Well,
wonderfully done, masterfully done.
I agree. She toward the end of the game, she becomes a companion for Kratos. She you have a skill tree for her, so she had definitely a character. She had definitely like one of the main characters, I believe.
And then in the DLC, you can see them expanding on that. But I haven't finished the DLC because I was playing it and I finished. I only defeated the dude once, but like I never actually got to finish the rest. I'm gonna go back to that.
Okay, I have. Let's not talk about that game. That because it's really amazing. Let's you want to move on to Arkham?
Yeah, that's what actually I was moving on to Arkham.
Okay.
So, like Santa Monica, I do believe has really great writers, and they were able to take the input from Sweet Baby and make it work in the game. However, what I find ended up happening with the Arkham series and the studio for them is that it didn't work for them because a lot of the writers that they had before left. So what ends up happening is now we have a lot of junior writers, a lot of fresh faces that took the input, but they didn't know how to work it well. And all that ended up happening was a confused mess. Like the game, it's okay. So like, even like with Sweet Baby Inc., like there's obvious like traits. Like number one, the disrespect towards Batman. It was like how we've seen Batman in these situations before. Like as I said, I never finished the entirety of like the Arkham series, but I played enough of it to know that he's been in situations like this before. I remember even was it Arkham City? I don't think it was Arkham Knight, but I think it was Arkham City where he was dosed with the gas, the Joker gas, and he overcame that.
Yeah. He would gonna die because he was poisoned with Joker's blood. Joker's infected Titan blood from Arkham Asylum. But yeah, in that game, when you go into the church, Harley runs at you, and in Asylum too. It's not even a fight. It's just like in Asylum, it just counter move. It just in a cutscene, she gets thrown into a cell, and in in a city, it's the same thing. She'd never been a threat to Batman ever, and she would
Yeah, and
never
it's stuff like yeah.
she would
Go.
never
I feel like
portray.
this one's more new.
Okay,
Yeah, go.
I'll go, then you go. She would never portrayed like that either. She would never a physical threat to Batman. Neither would the Joker. They were more chaos, and they had goons. You know, it was more like a mental threat. And
Yeah.
you go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like just for me, it's like you get Batman, who's been in situations like this. He's been mind controlled in some way, shape. Like you can make the argument that obviously, Brainiac is on a different level, but like I feel like the fear toxin that's like very similar. So there is grounds for him, number one, overcoming something like that. But okay, he doesn't overcome something like that. That's fine, and I think that's perfectly fine, right? He doesn't overcome something like that. Then, in that same vein, why would you kill him off in the way? Like, I'm not even like I feel like some people are making the argument that why would you kill off the Justice League like this? Like, just hold on for a second.
Um,
But yeah, sorry about that.
you're good.
But you can make the argument. Sorry about that, dude. But you can make the argument that like what was I saying? I was like getting up to a point.
You were talking about the why do you have to kill off the Justice League?
Oh yeah. So some people are making the argument that like, oh, why did they kill the Justice League? And I'm like, the game is called Kill the Justice League, so the Justice League will die. But it's always how you do it. And I feel this is where like you can see like where Sweet Baby Inc. was like very involved, because why does Wonder Woman, a character that has no affiliation, no history, like nothing with Arkham Batman, like at all, why does she get the hero's ending that Batman should have gotten? Like, even if you were going to kill him off, which I don't think was a smart move personally, because I feel like it doesn't feel like the proper end to his character. Even Harley didn't feel like Harley. She felt weird. She felt different. Like, she felt like an entirely her whole mentality shifted and was a new person altogether. And I really want to make sense of it.
I can explain that. It's because I wanted to know myself. It's that new you know how in Birds of Prey, the movie, it's that new thing that because remember this game was in development for 7 years. So it's around Suicide Squad, the not the James Gunn movie, the original Suicide Squad, and then you have Birds of Prey. It's that new idea that Harley Quinn isn't obsessed with the Joker now. It's that new she trying to be herself. She's her own character, and she always had been, but it's more like she's trying to separate herself from the Joker, and that's fine. You can do that, but that wasn't Arkham Heart. That wasn't Arkham Harley. You know, that just wasn't her. And if you that could have been, since the Joker died, you could have gone on an arc like that. But what they did is just change her character and not really show anything. Not show how she got to the idea that she did. And I don't even like what they did with Poison Ivy. I think Poison Ivy had
that was weird. I don't know. That was weird.
Well, Poison Ivy died in Arkham Knight. She gave her life in like a big heroic death in Arkham Knight to save all of Gotham. It's really quite emotional, and I think it was a good end for her character, just to bring her back. and I don't see the point. And the only, again, your thing with Wonder Woman, the the only the only other, like, other superhero you get in the Arkham games, it's a quick mention in Arkham Knight. If you look for it, one of the thugs talks about Superman, and that's really it. And so I agree with you there. But the stuff with I I think I don't. Yes, you could have Batman living on, but I think it would have been better to tell a Batman Beyond story where Batman dies
Yeah,
because Kevin Conroy is dead, and that's very unfortunate. If we told a Batman Beyond story with Kevin Conroy's Batman in the Arkhamverse, I think that would have been a lot better. At the end he dies, and Terry McGinnis is Batman now.
yeah,
Do
yeah.
you
No,
do you
I think I didn't understand. Okay, I do think this is more of a development. Like, this is a much wider like talking point. But the video game industry has slowly been kind of losing its audience, and it feels like it's happening, especially in the AAA space right now, where why is a game like why is Rocksteady, a studio well known for single player, really good story, really cool combat, why have they changed their whole game? Okay, so they changed the whole game. Like, oh, it's not. Can you just repeat the last sentence that you said? Because I feel like I'm just gonna be going a bit off
I
topic
was
real quick.
talking about Batman Beyond and killing, Batman dies at the end and Terry McGinnis is Batman now.
Yeah, so that like it put me back on track. That's what I was trying to say. But yeah, like so, why would you make a battle? Not even, it's not a battle royale, but it's like you're known for your storytelling, your combat, your single player experience. So why would you try to make a game that's so different to what you want? And then your audience has been saying for years that they want the Batman Beyond game, and then you find out that there was talks about a Batman Beyond game, but never really went any further than just talks. And it's thing where I feel like the AAA space is losing touch with what their audience wants from their characters and what they want to see. And I'm not saying you have to give your audience everything that they want, but if the alternative of not giving them what they want is worse, then I don't see the reason why you would do that. So everyone wanted a Batman Beyond game. I even remember thinking like that's the natural next step. Like maybe people would have gotten exhausted by then. Like I remember like a God of War. Just to bring up God of War, people are getting very annoyed with the Greek era,
Yeah,
and
God of
they were
War
like, oh,
Ascension.
so yeah, like I think Ascension was like kind of like the nail in the coffin for like that style of God of War game. So maybe like there could be the argument that people were getting tired of the Arkham games because they were like already there were four, right? Arkham
Uh,
Origins was the prequel.
yeah, there was one. Yeah, there were four. Arkham Asylum, City, Night, and then Origins. Yeah, and then there was a PS Vita
So
game, Origins Blackgate.
I don't think I knew about that one. I don't think I touched
It's
that one.
it's not a very
And the
important
PSP
game.
was
It's a side scroller. You don't have to play it. I used to like it, but I didn't have very many games back then.
fair. Fair enough. I have too many games these days. I barely play them. That's getting around to them. But I do find like you could make the argument that okay, we've made four of these games already. Maybe they wanted to switch it up, but like this was so drastic. Like God of War, like the the camera perspective changed, the combat changed, but it was still in the same vein as the previous God of War games. It was still a single player experience. You're still following Kratos on his journey. So a Batman Beyond game would have felt like the next step. And okay, maybe this time it's a bit different. Okay, maybe I'm not really sure where you would go with it. Like maybe this time around you try having something in the vein of more Uncharted, I guess. Like instead of it being like combo focused, like like a Devil May Cry game. Well, because like I feel like Arkham was very much like square triangle. That was like your main thing. It's very much like combo focused. You could try to have it be more. Okay, we're climbing, we're exploring. Maybe it's still a different type of game, but it's still in the same vein of Arkham Knight. But it just like it, Batman Beyond felt like the next step. But instead, they made Suicide Squad, and I don't see how this was a good step because it felt like you completely just went out of your comfort zone to make something that is far less varied in quality.
Yes,
And
I totally agree with you. I think a Batman Beyond game would have been great. I think in the vein of it could have been more stylish combat, like Iron Man meets Spider-Man, because Terry McGinnis, the Batman Beyond suit, so to make him like 10 times stronger, I believe, more durable. He can fly. I think if the combat was perfected, at least I feel, in Arkham Knight, you could have changed it up and have flying mechanics, maybe you're sending enemies flying, all this stuff, because how strong the suit makes Terry McGinnis. I think that would have been a lot better. Um but have you, like, I don't even believe the Suicide Squad could fight Green Lantern, you know? It just that the Justice League members are so much stronger than them. Like, you have Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, you have uh uh blackwashed Deadshot, which I thought that was crazy. If you want to talk about that.
Oh yeah, yes, actually, that was something that I did. I was supposed to mention it, but I got completely sidetracked. This is where like we start getting into the territory of like where you see a writer that clearly isn't as good not work with the feedback that Sweet Baby gave them. So like when we were having the discussion about Angropoda, it made sense within the world why that took place. When it came to Deadshot, it wasn't even an in-game discussion. They told you on Twitter, I believe, how that all happened. Like the white Deadshot was a fake, and now it's just like this. This doesn't feel now. This actually feels forced, and that's where the problems start. Is like you're forcing to have a race swap character instead of this being a naturally in the writing of the story thing. You didn't even include it in the story. You made a post about it. That's not how this works. That's not how narrative works or story works.
Yeah.
And I feel like a less like I'm not gonna pretend like I'm the greatest. Like I do writing stuff, but like that's more like something I've worked my personal time. But like this is where you can see someone who's less experienced not be able to work as well as someone like Santa Monica who will take feedback and make it work within their story. Go on.
Yeah, again and seriously, I think it seriously shows how the thing is, and we understand it now. I think Sweet Baby Inc. had a lot more input on Suicide Squad because of the employee exodus, where Santa Monica had a lot, or already had a big writing team, so they didn't have as much input, and I think Sony was more okay with the Corey Barlog and all of them doing what they want because they have such a good track record with God of War. I think,
Yeah.
and just the fact that, going back to the narrative of the I it Batman would have known that that wasn't the real Deadshot. The um timeline wise, the first time he shows up is in Arkham Origins, and that takes place like um 2 years in his career, like I think 8 years before Arkham Asylum, and like um even longer from Arkham Asylum to Arkham Knight. So
Yeah.
it Batman would have known that that wasn't the real Waylon Jones, Deadshot, and the fact that they have the same backstory. You could have just made them, because in the Suicide Squad game there is multiple universes. You could have just made him on multiple universe Deadshot and have him be black, and that would have been totally fine because it's a different universe. Anything can happen, you know. But they chose to
Do
make,
you see what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, God,
they chose to have in the canonical Arkham universe that what the Waylon Jones that we've been fighting in all the Arkham games be fake, and just create their own character. It's weird. And and um and also another thing in the Suicide Squad game, there's not really much style. Not really that. I know we're in Metropolis in Suicide Squad, but there's not really much of a style of Superman City. You know, there's not really any. Looks kind of generic and awful. You know, in Arkham Knight,
it looks like a basic. Yeah, it looks
yeah,
like a basic city that you've seen in every other game.
yeah, in Arkham Knight there is this great um, there's twists and curves, and the city feels alive. The city feels, it's very gothic architecture. It looks great. Ugh. But
It's tragic, man.
I know it really is. How would you? So you would have created a Batman Beyond game?
Like, this is the thing, right? Like, Batman Beyond is like, I feel that should just be Cyberpunk. I'll be honest with you. Like, you take Cyberpunk, at least what Cyberpunk is, and you add like a dark, like when I say I'm more talking about the world of Cyberpunk. Right? This is the future. You wanna have like that futuristic feeling to it, because that's like, oh, it's in the future. Batman's a little old now. He's red. He's like, he's not as old as he once was. So obviously, age gets to everyone.
Like in
And like the obvious next step.
like in the Batman Beyond animated TV show. Like in that, he's older, he can't quite fight, but he still knows what he's talking about.
Like, it's the blueprint is there. It is literally there. Like, all you need to do is add your own flair. It's basically, you make Arkham, just make it in a cyberpunk aesthetic. That's all you needed to do. Like, I felt like the groundwork is right there, but they choose this. Like, even Metropolis, like, just to like bring the conversation back to that. I always imagine Metropolis being like very bright, a lot of yellows, like bright blues, very shining. Oh, Superman City. The guy of like the whole thing with Superman is like hope. So you're gonna make the colors very like yellows, blues, whites, like all throughout the city. It's very bright, it's shiny. It has this obvious unique flavor. But no, it's just a generic city. Like, it has no flavor. It has no nothing that makes it stand out as Metropolis outside of it saying Metropolis on like the billboard.
I mean,
Just,
the only thing that I can really think of that, uh, even if it had the billboard and is, the classic Superman holding up the globe statue, but that, again, that's really it. And um, I I think the if you want to do a Justice League game, you don't go off by killing them first. I think, again, there should have been, like, I don't know, like at the end of the game you go to the Hall of Justice, and you look at the museum, and there's a bunch of audio logs of how Batman met the Justice League after Arkham Knight. I think that game
yeah,
would have been better. The couple Justice League games, couple Superman games, maybe Wonder Woman, Flash, whatever. Um, just to make it happen. And then I think it's hindsight, it's 2020, because you wouldn't have been able to do that because Kevin Conroy would have died before you have gotten that far. But I think if they just made a Justice League with Batman, knowing let's take out the fact that we know Kevin Conroy died. If we just make a Justice League game, yeah, we wouldn't have got any more Kevin Conroy Batman, but we would have gotten a good Justice League game,
yeah.
And I don't I know how the entertainment sphere feels about impersonations, but I think it's okay to impersonate his voice.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a big deal or anything like that.
Yeah.
I kind of get that. Like, I think the big thing with like, I'm being very honest. Like over the past, like I'd say since 2010, there's been this weird focus on Suicide Squad, and I'm gonna be honest, Suicide Squad never was a big thing. It never was. Like there was this big push. Like I remember there was the animated movie, there was the 2 live action movies, and now a game. And like there was this weird push for the Suicide Squad, and I always never understood that because for me, the Suicide Squad was never a big deal. It was always the Justice League, JLA, like literally any other group was more interesting. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like Suicide Squad is interesting, but I would rather have had a Justice League game. Like me, the hints of a game that I much prefer. Could you just imagine like you're playing and you're playing as Superman for like the beginning of the game, and you introduce Batman to the Justice League or something like that, right? Like you go to Arkham and you see his perspective of what Arkham looks like from like Superman's perspective, right? And like for he's seeing it for the first time, so you're seeing it from the outside looking in. Because like you were Batman before, so now you're bringing him into the game, and I'm like that would feel a lot more natural. That would feel a lot more interesting. That's something I'd want to play, and this is just getting back into the point of like the writers. Like it felt like they just kept making this decision after decision that just never helped the game. Even the fact that this is in the main timeline. Why? Like you have the whole multiversal story, like we were talking about earlier. Why is this part of the main timeline? Why is this the way Batman dies? Why is this the canonical version? You could genuinely have just said this is an Elseworld story that's still like it's an offshoot of the Arkham universe. So it is the Arkham universe, but it's a split timeline, right? So like you could just have said that, and it not. I think you'd still get people that are upset, but I think it saves you a lot of headache because now like, oh, if this doesn't work, okay, the main timeline touched. right? It's still bright and shiny over there, polish the trophy. Like this is an offshoot. You could have like just wave that hand. Jedi mind trick this away. Like, this is just it's its own thing, But why do you feel the need to make Spider the main universe? Like at points, it felt like they made bad decision after bad decision, and I feel this is something that we're seeing in a lot of games. We're seeing in a lot of movies and TV shows. We're constantly seeing them make decisions that actively don't benefit the story and don't benefit the game. And I feel like it's this weird thing of it feels like the writers themselves are almost sabotaging the game. Like the right, it feels like the writers themselves. I don't even think they're trying to do it on purpose. I just think they don't have the experience, or they don't know what they're doing to a certain extent, because things that are very obvious to a lot of people just don't seem to be obvious to them, and it could just be, oh, maybe it's the what's that phrase? Your inner circle. Um, maybe you're not hearing any other opinions outside of your circle, and that's why you can't see outside of yourself.
Yeah, an echo
It
chamber.
just feels like there you go. Thank you. Like maybe they're all in their own echo chambers. They're not seeing the obvious problems that everyone else is seeing, and like this is a bit of a sidetrack, but like it's something that I want to like even like with Spider-Man 2. Like I even made a video a while back, and like a lot of people gave me flack because I didn't play the game, and well, I feel like that is well deserved. Like I should have played Spider-Man 2. Like duh. But I watched enough about it to where like I kept there's small hiccups and small gripes that I never really liked. Like I never understood why there was such a big focus on Miles Morales, but Miles Morales. Like this is the perfect time to give Miles Morales a big story, a big push in the game, and it felt like for the majority of the game he was focusing on college. He was focusing on high school. He didn't feel like he was being like Spider-Man for the majority of like the story. It felt like Peter was like he's battling with the Venom suit. He's going all over the place. He's dealing with Harry, with issues with his wife. But it just like it always felt like we were going different places with Spider-Man. And this is the whole thing when it feels like I don't know what happened from Spider-Man, because like maybe it's just me. Like I felt like Spider-Man 2, in my opinion, it didn't have that moment that made me feel very like that hooked me. Like with Spider-Man 1, it was like the whole build up to the Doc Ock fight, and then having Aunt May die. That was such a big, impactful moment. I don't think we had something like that in Spider-Man 2. And in Spider-Man 2, I felt like we took a lot of the wrong lessons from Into the Spider-Verse. Like, now this is just my personal opinion. Like, you don't have to agree or disagree with this. It's just me solely just going off. And again, please like stop me, because I do tend to talk a lot. Like
No, talk as much as you want.
I appreciate it. But with I think one thing that a lot of people started to, especially when you get into the wrong lessons of Into the Spider-Verse, it's the reason Into the Spider-Verse works is because Miles Morales has always been the main character. Like there was never any question of who the main character was. Like that Spider-Man is dead. Like that Peter Parker in that universe is dead. Peter B. Parker is just a mentor. He's not the main character. He's literally just a mentor that is there to help Miles. Now the problem is that they tried to build Miles as a second Peter Parker, but he was never on the same level of Peter Parker. Whereas instead of becoming his own character, he felt like he was there. Story with the dude that killed his dad, but that was it. Like he had nothing else going for him. No real villains that were like interesting. No real plot points that were impactful. Hell, his whole like I remember when someone pointed this out. I don't remember which YouTuber. Like they pointed out that Harry and Miles only met once. in the whole game. That feels like such a narrative flaw. Like Harry's venom is such a big problem in the whole game. How did Miles only meet him once? Like you could even play into Harry feels like he's being replaced by Miles. I feel like that's such an obvious thing. Like Miles and Peter's relationship is so much stronger and stuff like that. Obvious story points that they clearly didn't understand or they missed as to why these story points worked in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and not necessarily in Spider-Man 2. Again, this is just me. I think Spider-Man 2 is it's a good game, but in terms of its story, I think it very much went down. It's not bad by any means, but like there were some story choices that just felt really bad. Like Miles, as I said, he's not getting any story, right? He didn't have a real story going for him, but he was always, for some reason, portrayed very strong. I remember like I'd be playing I'd be watching someone play the game, and there was always these weird moments of like Peter Parker like really like almost dying, and then being saved by Miles. Like it kept happening, and it's stuff like that. Like you have a really good character that you can build on, so why don't you use him effectively? Like why isn't he more involved in Peter's story? Like don't get me wrong, Peter is the main character.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
why isn't he more involved?
yeah. I agree. I think this should have been pushed. What I would change is definitely have the stuff in Spider-Man 1, and then maybe have him in the middle, maybe have Miles in the middle or the end of Spider-Man 2, him Peter Parker starting to mentor Miles. And then in Spider-Man 3, obviously we have um Spider-Man 3 definitely more of a mentor role, and for no in we have a Miles Morales game, right? But Miles Morales is the main character. You have Peter Parker as the mentor, and then in Spider-Man 3 we have them working together. I think that would have been better. We have 2 games with Peter Parker and then 2 games with Miles. But I think it definitely more focused on Peter Parker, at least in the his games, because I feel like the Spider-Man games turned into the Miles Morales game, eventually.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think this is where my opinion will differ from your opinion. I think the first 3 get because they announced that Spider-Man 3 is going to be Miles Morales as the main character, and I feel that's a bit of a mistake personally because it feels way too soon to be stepping down Peter Parker as the main character. And I get that like it makes sense within the story that they were trying to tell, but for me, it's a thing of it should have been Miles Morales is a lot more involved in Spider-Man 2. Miles is like they're getting along. They're getting along. But they're having falling outs. We're starting to see the chinks in the arm of the relationship because like obviously the Venom suit is like it's putting the worst of Peter. So he's maybe a bit more snappy towards Miles. Maybe like like Miles is like just number one, make Miles more involved. Like in every part that like Miles should have been so much more involved because it felt like he was doing so little for the majority of the game. He should have been more involved, but it should have feel like this is the building blocks to their relationship. We're seeing like I know in the Miles Morales game they had a little bit of that, but I feel like this should have been the game where we see it more, and we're seeing how the relationships break and how they reform their relationship from it, and then the relationship will get stronger by the end of the second game, where they work together to defeat Venom. Instead of it being this, like I don't know, like Was it Miles that defeated Venom in the end?
I think
Like
it
if
was. But I know you fight. I know you fight. What's his name? The um Craven the Hunter,
Raven.
and then he dies of cancer. And then you have that chase scene with Mary Jane, and she's apparently much faster than Peter Parker. And then yeah, and then you
Yeah,
have
don't even get me started. Don't even get me started on Mary Jane in that game. Oh, dude, that was such. Oh god, I was not a
anyway,
fan at all.
do you want to leave it off there then? And we can do something on your channel?
Uh, I think like what I'll end off is this. I feel like Spider-Man should have gotten his first 3 games, and then that's him. Like just to finish what I was saying. Miles Morales gets the first 2 games, and the second, like them working together, breaking, reforming the relationship, and by the end, the relationship is strong for as they work through it together. The third game is Peter slowly working Miles up to be the next main Spider-Man, right? But it's still his game, it's still his story, but we're seeing the end of the chapter, or at least like he's still Spider-Man, but he's taking a lot less active role, right? So he's still Spider-Man. He's still going to help when he needs to help, but he's not going to be leaving lectures to go chase the big bad that's happening outside. He's not going to be leaving important family meetings to go solve the issues that are happening in the world. That's Miles' problem now. But that should have been more what the third game is, instead of it just being like, oh no, Miles Morales is the main character now. No, Peter Parker is still the main character, but now he's training Miles to be the next character. And so we have a trilogy of Spider-Man. We have first game, second game, and it ends in the third game of him passing on the baton. And then we have a Miles Morales focused game. So instead of it being the small mini game that he got like in between Spider-Man 1 and 2, he now has his own official title. And he has his own official trilogy. Because I believe they're having their own thing. They're having their own this is getting into the leak situation that happened with Insomniac, and it was pretty bad. The whole it was pretty bad. A lot was leaked, but what we found out is that a lot of there's this big Marvel deal that's happening with Insomniac right now. Wait, is it Insomniac? Yeah,
I didn't hear anything about this. Go ahead and tell me.
you definitely need to go look into it. So just to give you the rundown, a lot of Wolverine was leaked. If you don't want to see it, I'd suggest not looking into it. Like I'm forward, unfortunately. Like I looked into all of it. A lot of Wolverine's gameplay was leaked, and the schedule for all the upcoming games was released. And it was also a lot of data was always also released. So like prices of games, who was involved in certain aspects of the game, like a bunch of info was just leaked. And what ended up happening is you saw the release schedule, and it turns out there's now a contract that Marvel has with Insomniac to release more Marvel games. So like you'll be seeing Insomniac in the future release a lot more Marvel. Whatever those games are, like I'll leave it. If you want to look into it, look into it. It's not hard to find, but I'm not gonna say it because I feel like you know what, it's out of respect for them because the leak was bad. Like at the end of the day, it's gonna hurt their company really bad. And I think I'll close it off with this. We are in this weird era right now of the creators and the fans not seeing eye to eye on a lot of situations, and the creators not understanding what the fans want to see in their entertainment, and the creators not understanding why older media worked so well. Like they didn't take a lot of the lessons that a lot of the older media was pushing and were teaching, and they took a lot of the wrong lessons from that. And I feel it's a weird space of fans want something, but it always comes at like a weird cost. Like, I want a Spider-Man game. Why is Spider-Man being retired so early? I want a Batman game, but why are you killing off Batman? And
especially in
it's
that way.
stuff like this. Sorry?
I said it's especially in that way. Go ahead, go on.
Yeah. So like, it feels like we're in this way now of consumers and the higher ups and the producers not fully being aligned with what they want to see in a game and what they want to play, or like at least what they expect from a game. Like, I'm playing a Spider-Man game. I want to play as Spider-Man. I want to play either Miles Morales or Peter Parker. That's it. I don't want to play as anyone. I don't want to play as Mary Jane. The Mary Jane missions, I'm sorry. Like, even when they like did it, like, I remember thinking to myself, what's the point of Spider-Man if that stun gun can like neutralize all enemies? What's the point?
Yeah.
Why am I hitting these 500 hit combos when I can just get the stun gun, one hit, it's done? Just cut out Mary Jane. I'm sorry, she's not that interesting. I feel this is one of the weakest interpretations of Mary Jane I've seen so far in like media, and I feel like it's just like we just move on from Mary Jane. She's not ill. She's not it. If you want that big female representation, I guess there's Silk. I guess I believe they announced it towards the end of the game as potentially being in the game or in future games. So like, if you want that, there we go. A third female Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, right? I feel like that's the best way to go. I'm always playing as a spider person. I don't want to play as the weird robot. Even if I get that it's a mini mission, but it happens so often that it feels like such a heavy part of the game. And we need to start getting to this point, I believe, in media where the fans get what they want, but they're also surprised with what the producers do as well. Like, please your fans extra. Like, I'm not saying that every single, like, you need to like bow down to the fans and you need to give them everything that they want. You need to meet all the demands. It's impossible. You're not going to meet all of their demands. Even if I believe God of War Ragnarok is one of the greatest games of all time, and even I see the game having a lot of flaws with pictures and the UI being terrible, like and then stuff like that. You can't please everyone, and you can't make a 100% perfect game. But if you can do enough of what the fans want and do enough of what you want, and as long as that still aligns with the vision of the fans, then I think you have a good game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do have to go though. But let's do this again, okay?
Oh, 100%, dude. I did enjoy this. I think next time, well, knowing how the internet works, we'll probably have, I don't know, Sweet Baby 2.0. Maybe the next. There's always something. I swear to God, like there's always something new with the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100%, dude. This was
Okay, see ya.
definitely do it again.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I forgot I was live. Go subscribe to Casual Wendell, and thank you, and have a great day. Bye.